The transport ship landed with a soft hum on the designated platform. Krevthal stepped out into the bright sunlight of Earth, his 4 eyes adjusting to the yellow star's light. He stood tall, his purple-scaled body impressive even by Vorian standards. Back home, he was a champion. He had won fights across 12 different star systems. This place, this small blue planet, was just another stop on his journey to greatness. The air felt thick and heavy. Krevthal had read about Earth's gravity, how it was stronger than most civilized worlds. He flexed his muscles and felt the pull. It was noticeable, but nothing a warrior of his caliber couldn't handle. He had trained in worse conditions. Or so he thought. A human approached him. The man was smaller than Krevthal, which was expected. Most species in the galaxy were smaller than Vorians. The human wore a military uniform with various badges and symbols. His face was calm, almost friendly. "Welcome to Earth," the human said in perfect galactic common. "I'm Lieutenant Dae-hyun. I'll be your liaison during your time here." Krevthal studied the human. Dae-hyun looked ordinary. His body seemed weak compared to Vorian standards. No visible armor plating, no natural weapons, just soft skin and a pleasant smile. The alien fighter had trouble understanding how humans had earned a seat at the Galactic Defense Initiative. They seemed so fragile. "I am Krevthal, champion of the Vorian combat leagues," he announced, making sure his translator captured his proud tone. "I expect this training exchange to be brief. My skills far exceed what most species can offer." Dae-hyun's smile didn't change. "Of course. Please, follow me. I'll show you to the training facility." They walked through the military base. Other aliens were present, members of different species from across the galaxy. Krevthal recognized some of them. There was a Feltorian with her 6 arms, a Kixion floating on his anti-gravity pad, and several others he didn't immediately identify. What surprised him was their expressions. They looked tired. Some looked scared. One Feltorian whispered to another as Krevthal passed. "Another new one. Poor creature doesn't know what's coming." Krevthal ignored the comment. Weaklings always made excuses for their failures. He was different. He was a champion. The training facility was enormous. Buildings spread across several kilometers, with various specialized areas for different types of combat training. Mountains rose in the distance, covered in green vegetation. The sky was blue and clear. Everything looked peaceful, almost too peaceful for a military base. "This is where you'll spend the next 3 months," Dae-hyun explained. "The Galactic Defense Initiative requires all member species to understand each other's combat methods. You'll learn how humans train, fight, and survive." 3 months seems excessive," Krevthal said. "I could probably master your techniques in 3 weeks." Dae-hyun made a small sound, something between a laugh and a cough. "We'll see. Come, I'll introduce you to your primary instructor." They entered one of the larger buildings. Inside, several humans were engaged in various exercises. Krevthal watched them with mild interest. They were lifting weights, running on machines, and practicing hand-to-hand combat. Nothing seemed particularly impressive. Their movements were adequate but not exceptional. A muscular human man approached them. His face was stern, his eyes sharp. He moved with the confidence of someone who had seen real combat. This one, at least, looked like a proper warrior. "Instructor Minho," Dae-hyun said. "This is Krevthal. He'll be joining the program starting tomorrow." Minho looked Krevthal up and down, his expression unreadable. "Vorian, right? Good physical build, strong bones, fast healing. You'll need all of that." "I assure you I am more than prepared for whatever challenges you present," Krevthal said confidently. "Everyone says that," Minho replied. His voice was flat, matter-of-fact. "Report to the main training ground at 0400 hours tomorrow. Bring water. Bring determination. Leave your ego at the door." 0400? Krevthal asked. That was very early by Vorian standards. That's before sunrise. We start before the sun, Minho said. Builds character. After the meeting, Dae-hyun showed Krevthal to his quarters. The room was simple but comfortable, designed to accommodate various alien physiologies. A sleeping platform, a cleaning station, and a communication terminal. Krevthal set down his personal belongings and looked out the window at the mountains. "Lieutenant," he said, "why did that Feltorian look so frightened earlier? What kind of training do humans conduct here?" Dae-hyun leaned against the doorframe. "Humans come from a difficult world, Krevthal. Our planet has strong gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators, and limited resources. We evolved to endure things that would kill most species. Our training reflects that reality." "I've trained on high-gravity worlds before," Krevthal said dismissively. "I'm sure you have," Dae-hyun said. There was something in his tone, a knowing quality that made Krevthal slightly uncomfortable. "Get rest. Tomorrow will be educational." That evening, Krevthal ate in the communal dining area. Other aliens sat in small groups, talking quietly. He approached a table where 2 Feltorians and a Kixian were sitting. They looked up as he sat down. "You're the new Vorian," one Feltorian said. Her name tag read Velris. "How long have you been here?" "I arrived today. I begin training tomorrow." The 3 aliens exchanged glances. The Kixian, whose translator identified him as Plix, made a whistling sound that his device translated as nervous laughter. "Good luck," Velris said. "Seriously, you're going to need it." "I don't understand the concern," Krevthal said. "Humans are physically inferior to most species. How difficult can their training be?" "That's what we all thought," Plix said. "I've been here 2 weeks. I've learned that humans don't rely on physical superiority. They rely on something else, something much worse." "What do you mean?" "They never stop," Velris said quietly. "When your body is screaming for rest, they keep going. When logic says you cannot continue, they continue. They've evolved to push past every reasonable limit, and they expect you to do the same." Krevthal laughed. "You're exaggerating. Tomorrow I'll show these humans what a real warrior can do." The 3 aliens looked at him with something like pity. They said nothing more, simply returned to their meals. Krevthal ate alone, confidence still burning bright in his chest. He was a champion. He had nothing to fear from soft humans and their training programs. In his quarters that night, Krevthal performed his usual evening exercises. His body felt good, strong, ready. The gravity was manageable, the air was breathable, the temperature was comfortable. Everything seemed designed for success. He set his alarm for 0300 hours, giving himself plenty of time to prepare. As he settled onto his sleeping platform, his last thought was simple. These humans had no idea who they were dealing with. Outside his window, the stars glittered against the dark sky. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear humans running, their boots hitting the ground in steady rhythm. They were training even now, in the middle of the night. Strange creatures, these humans. But tomorrow, Krevthal would show them what real strength looked like. Tomorrow would be his day to shine. He had no idea how wrong he was. The alarm pierced through Krevthal's sleep at 0300 hours. He rose quickly, performed his morning routine, and dressed in the training uniform provided by the humans. It was simple, lightweight, and completely inadequate for serious combat training, or so he thought. He arrived at the main training ground at 0345, 15 minutes early to demonstrate his professionalism. Other aliens were already there, looking miserable in the pre-dawn darkness. Krevthal noticed that many of them were stretching or preparing in ways that suggested they knew something he didn't. Human soldiers began arriving. They moved with casual confidence, joking with each other, completely relaxed. One young human woman passed by Krevthal, smiled, and said, "Good morning. Ready for some fun?" Before he could respond, Instructor Minho appeared. He carried no equipment, wore the same simple uniform as everyone else, and looked completely at ease despite the early hour. "Listen up," Minho called out. His voice carried easily across the field. "We're starting with a light warm-up, 20 kilometers through the mountain trail. Standard pace. Stay together, support each other, and keep moving. Any questions?" 20 kilometers? As a warm-up? Krevthal felt his confidence waver slightly, but said nothing. Around him, the other aliens looked resigned. The humans looked bored. "Move out," Minho ordered. The group began jogging. At first, the pace seemed reasonable. Krevthal settled into a comfortable rhythm, his powerful legs handling the terrain easily. The path led away from the base and into the mountains. The sky began to lighten, showing the landscape in shades of gray and blue. After the first kilometer, Krevthal was still comfortable. After 3 kilometers, he noticed the gravity more. After 5 kilometers, his breathing had increased significantly. The humans around him were chatting, carrying on full conversations while maintaining the pace. A human private jogged beside him. Her name tag said Jiwon. She was smaller than Krevthal, probably half his mass, yet she moved like the exercise was nothing. "First day?" she asked pleasantly. "Yes," Krevthal managed between breaths. "It gets easier," Jiwon said. "Your body adapts. Humans have been running like this for millions of years. We're built for it. Our ancestors used to chase prey animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We called it persistence hunting." "Chase them? Until they collapsed?" Krevthal asked. That sounded insane. "Sure. Could take hours, sometimes days. But we never stopped. Eventually, everything gets tired. Except humans. We just keep going." She smiled and increased her pace slightly, moving ahead to join other soldiers. By the 10th kilometer, Krevthal's legs were burning. The Vorian body was built for short bursts of incredible power, not extended endurance. He was designed to be a sprinter, a striker. This constant, grinding pace was something else entirely. The humans continued their conversations. One group was singing something, a rhythmic military cadence that helped maintain the pace. They sounded happy. They sounded like they could run forever. "Feeling it yet?" Instructor Minho appeared beside him, not even breathing hard. "I am managing," Krevthal gasped. "Good. This is just the warm-up, remember? Real training starts after breakfast." Minho moved ahead, checking on other runners. Just the warm-up. The words echoed in Krevthal's mind. What kind of species considered 20 kilometers a warm-up? At 15 kilometers, Krevthal's world had narrowed to simple survival. His vision was tunneling. His lungs burned. Every muscle in his legs screamed for rest. Around him, several aliens had already fallen back, walking instead of running. The humans continued forward, relentless as a tide. A male human soldier dropped back to run beside him. "Come on, big guy. Don't quit. Embrace the suck." "Embrace? What?" Krevthal panted. "The suck, the pain, the difficulty. Embrace it. Make it your friend. Pain is just weakness leaving the body." The human grinned and patted Krevthal's shoulder before moving ahead. Pain is weakness leaving the body. What kind of philosophy was that? Pain was a warning system. It meant your body was damaged. It meant you should stop. But these humans seemed to have a completely different relationship with suffering. At 18 kilometers, Krevthal stumbled. His legs nearly gave out. A female human soldier immediately appeared at his side. "I've got you," she said. "Come on, just 2 more kilometers. You can do this." "I cannot," Krevthal admitted. "My body is failing." "Your body is fine. It's your mind that's quitting. Mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter." She laughed at her own joke and helped support his weight. I'm Private Jiwan, by the way. We met earlier. Why? Why are you helping me? Krevthal asked. Because that's what we do. No one gets left behind. We're a team. Jiwan adjusted her grip. Now move those legs, one step at a time. Krevthal moved. He didn't know how, but he moved. Jiwan stayed beside him, her presence somehow making it easier. Around them, other humans were helping other aliens. No one was abandoned. No one was mocked for struggling. At 19 kilometers, Krevthal's vision was blurry. At 19.5, he was running on pure instinct. At 20 kilometers, he collapsed onto the grass at the training ground, gasping like a dying fish. "Good work, everyone," Minho called out. 15-minute break, then we hit the obstacle course. 15 minutes? Krevthal lay on the ground, unable to move. Around him, humans were stretching, drinking water, and talking as if they had just taken a pleasant stroll. The aliens, by contrast, looked destroyed. Velris, the Feltorian from dinner, crawled over to him. "Told you," she wheezed. "This cannot be normal," Krevthal said. "This cannot be standard human training." "It is," a voice said. Krevthal looked up to see Lieutenant Dae-hyun standing over him, holding a water container. "Here, drink. You need to rehydrate." Krevthal took the water gratefully. "How do you do this? How do humans endure such things?" Dae-hyun crouched down. "We evolved on a death world, Krevthal. Earth isn't a nice place. Strong gravity, extreme temperatures, dangerous predators, diseases, natural disasters. For millions of years, only the toughest humans survived. We're the descendants of the ones who refused to quit, who kept going when everything said to stop. It's in our genetics now." "But you look so soft," Krevthal said weakly. "We are soft. No scales, no armor, no natural weapons. But we have something else. Endurance, determination, stubbornness. We're not the strongest or the fastest, but we never, ever stop." Dae-hyun smiled. "Take your break. The obstacle course is actually fun." Fun. The word seemed obscene. The obstacle course was not fun. It was a nightmare of walls to climb, ropes to swing on, mud pits to crawl through, and barriers to jump over. Krevthal's exhausted body could barely manage the first few obstacles. He watched in horror as human soldiers, including small ones like Jiwan, flew through the course with ease. By the end of the day, Krevthal could barely walk. He skipped dinner, too exhausted to eat. He went straight to the medical bay where a human doctor examined him. "Nothing broken," Dr. Yunji said cheerfully. "Just extreme muscle fatigue. Your body will adapt, but it'll take time. Vorian physiology isn't designed for extended endurance activities." "Then why make me do them?" Krevthal asked bitterly. "Because in real combat, battles don't end when you get tired. Enemies don't stop because you're exhausted. You need to learn to push past your limits. That's what humans can teach you." Dr. Yunji prepared an injection. "This will help with recovery. Get sleep. Tomorrow will be similar. Tomorrow will be similar." The words filled Krevthal with dread. In his quarters, he lay on his sleeping platform and stared at the ceiling. His entire body ached. His pride ached even more. He had been completely, utterly humbled by creatures he had considered inferior. For the first time in his life, Krevthal doubted himself. For the first time, he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake coming to Earth. 3 days had passed since Krevthal's arrival on Earth. 3 days of pain, exhaustion, and humiliation. His body ached constantly. His pride was shattered. Every morning brought new challenges that pushed him beyond what he thought possible. And every day, the humans made it look easy. Today was different, though. Today was a rest day. No running, no obstacle courses. Instead, the alien recruits would attend classroom sessions to learn the theory behind human combat methods. Krevthal limped into the lecture hall, grateful for the chance to sit down. The room was filled with aliens from various species, all looking as miserable as he felt. They sat in specialized chairs designed for different body types. Krevthal found a seat near the middle and waited. A human man entered the room. He was older than most of the trainers Krevthal had seen, with gray streaks in his dark hair. His uniform identified him as Specialist Hyok, an expert in xenobiology and combat sciences. "Good morning," Hyok said pleasantly. "I know you're all suffering. I know many of you think human training is excessive, possibly even cruel. Today, I'm going to explain why we train the way we do. By the end of this lecture, you'll understand what makes humans different." He activated a holographic display. An image of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. Let's start with this planet. By galactic standards, Earth is what we call a death world. High gravity, extreme weather variations, tectonic instability, and a massive diversity of predator species. Most civilized worlds have gravity between 0.6 and 0.8 standard. Earth is 1.0. That might not sound like much, but it means everything on our planet evolved to be stronger just to survive. Krevthal listened carefully. He had known Earth had higher gravity, but he hadn't considered the implications. "Now, let's talk about human evolution," Hyok continued. The display changed to show a primitive human running across a plain. "Our ancestors were not the strongest animals on Earth. We weren't the fastest. We didn't have claws, armor, or venom. What we had was endurance. Humans are persistence hunters. We would chase prey animals for hours, sometimes days, until they collapsed from exhaustion. While other predators relied on speed or strength for quick kills, humans just kept going. We sweated to cool our bodies, allowing us to run in heat that would kill other species. We developed the ability to store energy efficiently and recover quickly." A Feltorian raised one of her 6 hands. "But that's just ancient history. Surely modern humans don't need those abilities anymore." Hyok smiled. "Evolution doesn't disappear in a few thousand years. Those traits are still in our genetics. Every human you've trained with has the same basic capabilities as our ancestors. We're still built to run, to chase, to pursue. It's who we are." The display changed again, showing a human brain. "Let's discuss pain tolerance. Most species have a straightforward relationship with pain. When it reaches a certain level, the body forces you to stop. Humans are different. We have a system called the adrenal response. When humans face danger or extreme stress, our bodies flood with chemicals: adrenaline, endorphins, cortisol. These chemicals do several things. They increase strength, suppress pain, sharpen focus, and delay exhaustion. In extreme situations, humans can perform feats that seem impossible. We call it hysterical strength. Krevthal thought about Private Jiwon helping him through the run. She had seemed tireless, almost cheerful despite the distance. Now he understood why. "There are documented cases," Hyok continued, "of humans lifting vehicles to save trapped people, of soldiers continuing to fight with injuries that should have incapacitated them, of parents carrying children for days through dangerous terrain without rest. These aren't myths. They're examples of what the human body can do when pushed." The lecture continued for 2 hours. Hyok explained human healing rates, which were faster than most species. He discussed human psychological resilience, the ability to endure trauma and continue functioning. He showed statistics on human combat performance across galactic history. "One more thing," Hyok said as the lecture neared its end. "Humans have something we call second wind. When you exercise to exhaustion, your body should quit. But if you push through that initial exhaustion, something interesting happens. The body finds new energy reserves. You get a second burst of strength and endurance. Many humans report that the second wind feels better than the beginning of exercise." "That's insane," a Kixian muttered. "That's evolution," Hyok corrected. "That's what happens when you come from a world that never stops trying to kill you. You adapt or die. Humans adapted. After the lecture, Krevthal went to the training gymnasium. Despite it being a rest day, many humans were there, exercising voluntarily. He watched them with new eyes, seeing not weakness, but frightening capability. Sergeant Taiyang was sparring with another soldier. Taiyang was not particularly large, but he moved with confidence and skill. He noticed Krevthal watching and walked over. "Want to spar?" Taiyang asked. "I'm still recovering from the week's training," Krevthal admitted. "Light sparring, just technique, no real force. Come on, it'll help you understand us better." Reluctantly, Krevthal agreed. They moved to a mat and began. At first, Krevthal was confident. He was larger, stronger, with faster reflexes. But Taiyang was skilled, using Krevthal's strength against him, redirecting rather than blocking. 5 minutes into the spar, Krevthal thought he had the advantage. He was using superior reach and power to control the match. Then something changed. Taiyang's eyes sharpened. His movements became more fluid. He was getting stronger, faster. "Second wind," Taiyang said with a grin, and suddenly Krevthal was on the defensive. The spar ended with Krevthal on his back, Taiyang's hand on his chest, in a position that would have been a killing blow in real combat. The human helped him up, not even breathing hard. "You're strong," Taiyang said. "But strength isn't everything. You fought well for 5 minutes. Humans are built for the fight that lasts 5 hours. Later that day, Krevthal witnessed something that truly shocked him. Private Somin was running laps around the track. Her left arm was in a support brace, clearly injured. He approached Instructor Minho, who was supervising. "Why is she training with an injury?" Krevthal asked. "Fractured bone in her forearm," Minho said. "Happened 2 days ago during combat drills. Doctor cleared her for lower body exercise." "She should be resting completely," Krevthal protested. "Any Vorian with such an injury would be on medical leave." "Humans heal while training," Minho said. "As long as she doesn't use the injured arm, the exercise actually helps. Increases blood flow, speeds recovery. She'll be back to full duty in a week." Krevthal watched Somin complete another lap, her face showing determination despite obvious discomfort. She wasn't the largest or strongest human he'd seen, but she was there, pushing forward, refusing to let injury stop her. That evening, Krevthal sat in his quarters reviewing the day's information, the lecture notes, the demonstrations, everything he'd learned. A picture was forming in his mind, one that both impressed and terrified him. Humans weren't superior to other species in any single category. They weren't the strongest, fastest, or smartest. But they had something more valuable. They never quit. Their bodies were designed to endure. Their minds refused to accept defeat. Their culture celebrated pushing past limits. On any other world, such traits would be considered reckless, even suicidal. But Earth wasn't any other world. It was a planet that demanded everything from its inhabitants, and humans had survived by becoming more stubborn than death itself. Krevthal thought about his own species. Vorians were powerful, skilled, proud. But they knew when to quit. They knew when something was impossible. Humans apparently didn't have that knowledge, or if they did, they ignored it. He pulled up his personal log and began recording his thoughts. Day 6 on Earth. I came here believing humans were weak. I was wrong. They're not weak. They're terrifying. Not because of what they can do, but because of what they refuse to stop doing. I'm beginning to understand why the galaxy fears them, and why they're such valuable allies. Outside his window, he could see humans running in the darkness. Training never stopped, not even at night. Somewhere out there, Jiwon, Taiyang, Somin, and countless others were pushing themselves further. And tomorrow, Krevthal would have to push himself too. Because if he wanted to survive this program, he needed to learn to think like a human, to endure like a human, to embrace the pain like a human. It was the hardest thing he'd ever attempted, but for the first time since arriving, he felt something other than despair. He felt determination. Maybe, just maybe, some of that human stubbornness was rubbing off on him. Week 3 began with an announcement that filled every alien recruit with dread. Instructor Minho stood before the assembled group, his expression neutral as always. "This week is survival training," he said. "You'll be dropped in teams of 3 in the northern wilderness. Minimal supplies, basic equipment, and a series of objectives to complete. Duration, 7 days. The terrain is mountainous, the weather will be cold, and you'll need to work together to succeed. Any questions?" Krevthal's hand went up. "What kind of supplies?" "Water purification tablets, basic first aid, 3 days of emergency rations, standard camping gear, and communication devices for true emergencies only. Using the emergency beacon means automatic failure unless there's a life-threatening situation. 3 days of food for 7 days of survival." The math was clear. They would need to find food, maintain shelter, and complete objectives while hungry and exhausted. Krevthal felt his stomach tighten. The teams were announced. Krevthal was paired with 2 humans, Corporal Jihoon and Private Nari. Jihoon was tall and lean with a quiet confidence. Nari was smaller with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Both looked completely unfazed by the announcement. "Good to meet you properly," Jihoon said, extending his hand for the human greeting gesture. Krevthal clasped it carefully. "Don't worry. Nari and I have done this before. We'll get through it." "Before?" Krevthal asked. "This is standard training?" "Sure," Nari said cheerfully. "We do survival training twice a year. Builds teamwork and self-reliance. Plus, it's kind of fun once you get into it." Fun. These humans had a very strange definition of that word. The transport dropped them in a forest valley surrounded by snow-capped peaks. The temperature was just above freezing. Wind cut through Krevthal's thermal suit, making him shiver. The humans seemed comfortable in identical gear. "All right," Jihoon said, pulling out a tactical tablet. "First objective is 15 kilometers northeast. We need to reach the checkpoint and scan the marker. Let's move." They began hiking. The terrain was rough, with loose rocks and steep inclines. Krevthal's improved conditioning from 3 weeks of training helped, but he still struggled with the pace. Jihoon and Nari moved like mountain goats, finding easy paths through difficult terrain. "You're doing good," Nari encouraged. "Your climbing has improved a lot since you arrived." "Thank you," Krevthal panted. "Though I feel I'm slowing you down." "We're a team," Jihoon said. "We move at the team's pace. No one gets left behind, remember?" They reached the first checkpoint by evening. The marker was at the top of a rocky outcrop, requiring a difficult climb. Jihoon went first, finding handholds and calling out the route. Nari went last, making sure Krevthal didn't fall. Together they reached the top and scanned the marker. As darkness fell, they set up camp in a sheltered area beneath an overhang. Jihoon built a fire with practiced efficiency while Nari prepared their meal, a small portion of the emergency rations supplemented with edible plants she'd gathered during the hike. "How did you know which plants were safe?" Krevthal asked. "Training," Nari said. "Every human soldier learns wilderness survival. We study local flora and fauna, water sources, shelter building, fire making. It's basic stuff." Basic stuff. Krevthal had spent his entire life training for combat, yet he knew nothing about surviving in nature. These humans were warriors and survivalists combined. The night was bitterly cold. Even with the thermal suits and the fire, Krevthal shivered. His Vorian biology, designed for warmer climates, struggled with the temperature. He tried to sleep, but couldn't. Jihoon noticed. "Cold." "Very," Krevthal admitted. Without a word, Jihoon and Nari repositioned themselves closer to Krevthal, using their body heat to help warm him. "Humans are good at generating heat," Nari explained. "Our metabolisms run hot. This is why we sweat so much." It's actually useful in situations like this. You're helping me again, Krevthal said. Why? I slow you down. I make the mission harder. Because that's what teammates do, Ji-hoon said simply. Your strength is our strength. Your weakness is our responsibility. We succeed together or not at all. Day 2 brought rain, cold, persistent rain that soaked through everything. The second objective was 20 kilometers away through a river valley. The river was swollen from the rain, running fast and dangerous. We need to cross, Ji-hoon said, studying the water. There's a narrower point upstream, but it'll add 5 kilometers to our route. We could ford here, Nari suggested. It's risky, but faster. They decided to ford. Ji-hoon went first, using a rope for safety. The current was strong, the water freezing. He made it across and secured the rope. Nari went next, moving confidently despite the danger. Then it was Krevthal's turn. The water hit him like a physical blow. It was colder than anything he'd experienced. His legs went numb almost immediately. The current tried to sweep him away. He gripped the rope with all his strength, pulling himself forward. Halfway across, his foot slipped. The current caught him, dragging him downstream. The rope burned through his hands as he held on desperately. Then human hands grabbed him. Ji-hoon had jumped back into the freezing water and was pulling him toward the shore. Together, they made it across. Krevthal collapsed on the bank, shaking uncontrollably. Ji-hoon was also shaking, but immediately started helping Krevthal out of his wet clothes. Hypothermia risk, Nari said. Already building a fire. We need heat fast. They got Krevthal into dry clothes and close to the fire. Ji-hoon stripped off his own wet gear, seeming less affected by the cold. His human physiology, designed for temperature regulation, handled the cold better than Krevthal's. You saved me, Krevthal said. You risked yourself. That's the job, Ji-hoon said. We don't leave people behind, ever. Day 3 through 5 blurred together. Constant movement, minimal food, and difficult objectives. They climbed mountains, navigated through dense forest, and trekked across open plains. Krevthal's body was exhausted, running on reserves he didn't know he had. The humans maintained morale through songs. They sang while marching, rhythmic tunes that helped maintain pace and lifted spirits. They told jokes during rest breaks. They encouraged Krevthal when he faltered, never showing frustration at his limitations. We can rest when we're dead, Nari would say cheerfully whenever someone suggested stopping for longer than necessary. Pain is temporary, pride is forever, Ji-hoon would add with a grin. These phrases, these human mantras, started making sense to Krevthal. They weren't just words. They were a philosophy, a way of viewing hardship not as something to avoid, but as something to push through. On day 6, disaster struck. They were climbing a steep slope when rocks gave way beneath Krevthal. He tumbled down the incline, hitting hard. When he tried to stand, his left leg wouldn't support his weight. Injured. How bad? Ji-hoon asked, quickly examining the leg. I cannot walk properly, Krevthal said. I've failed you. Use the emergency beacon. No beacon, Nari said firmly. We're not failing because of an injury. We'll adapt. But I'll slow you down even more. The final objective is still 10 kilometers away. We'll never make it in time. Ji-hoon and Nari looked at each other and seemed to have an entire conversation without words. Then Ji-hoon bent down. Get on my back. What? You heard me? Get on. I'll carry you. That's impossible. I weigh twice what you do. The terrain is too difficult. Humans carried wounded comrades through worse terrain for thousands of years, Nari said. It's what we do. Now get on Ji-hoon's back before I make you. Krevthal climbed onto Ji-hoon's back. The human stood, adjusted the weight, and started walking. Not slowly, not carefully, but at a steady pace that ate up distance. This is insane, Krevthal protested. You cannot maintain this. Watch me, Ji-hoon said. For the next 4 hours, Jihoon carried Krevthal and his full equipment load. He carried the alien up hills, through rough terrain, across streams. When he showed signs of fatigue, he didn't stop. He just kept going, one foot in front of the other. Nari walked ahead, scouting the route and encouraging Jihoon. "You've got this. Just a little further. You're doing great." They reached the final objective with 2 hours to spare. Jihoon set Krevthal down gently, and only then did the human collapse, gasping for breath. But he was smiling. "Told you. We'd make it," Jihoon panted. That night, their last in the wilderness, they sat around the campfire. The mission was complete. They would be extracted in the morning. Krevthal looked at his 2 human companions, these beings who had given everything to ensure the team's success. "I don't understand," Krevthal said quietly. "Why push so hard? Why refuse to quit even when quitting is logical?" Nari poked the fire, thinking. "Because we're human. We don't have claws or armor or natural weapons. We're not the strongest or the fastest. All we have is this." She tapped her head. "The refusal to accept defeat. Our ancestors survived ice ages, predators, diseases, and disasters because they refused to quit. It's in our DNA. Every human carries that legacy," Jihoon added. "When we train, when we fight, when we suffer, we're honoring everyone who came before us. Everyone who refused to die. Everyone who kept going when stopping meant death." Krevthal felt something break inside him. Not his body or his pride, but something deeper. A wall he'd built around his understanding of strength. Tears came to his eyes, a Vorian expression of profound emotion. "I have learned more in these 7 days than in years of combat training," he said. "You have shown me that true strength isn't about power. It's about will, about heart." "Now you're getting it," Nari said, smiling. The next morning, the extraction team arrived. As they flew back to base, Krevthal looked at the wilderness below. He had gone in as an alien observer. He was coming back as something different, not quite human, but touched by their spirit. The medical bay was quiet when Krevthal woke. His injured leg was wrapped in advanced healing bandages, the human technology already repairing the damaged tissue. Dr. Yunji had prescribed mandatory rest for 3 days. No training, no exercises, just recovery. Krevthal hated it. Somewhere during his time on Earth, he had started to feel wrong when not pushing himself. The humans had infected him with their restlessness. On the 2nd day of his recovery, Officer Yuna visited him. She was part of the cultural liaison team, responsible for helping alien recruits understand human society beyond just military training. She carried a portable data tablet and a warm smile. "How are you feeling?" she asked, settling into a chair beside his bed. "Restless," Krevthal admitted. "My body wants to recover, but my mind wants to train." Yuna laughed. "That's very human of you. Most aliens are relieved to rest. Humans feel guilty about it. We have a saying, rest is not a reward, it's a requirement. But we still struggle to accept it. I've noticed humans have many sayings, many philosophies about struggle and endurance. Where do these come from?" "That's actually why I'm here," Yuna said, activating her tablet. "You've been through physical training, but you haven't really learned about human culture. Understanding why we push so hard requires understanding our history. Would you like to learn?" Krevthal nodded eagerly. The past weeks had shown him what humans could do, but not why they did it. Yuna began with Earth's history. She showed him images of ancient human civilizations, groups of people surviving in harsh environments, deserts where water was scarce, frozen tundras where temperatures could kill, jungles filled with diseases and predators. Every major human civilization developed in difficult places, Yuna explained. We didn't evolve on easy worlds. We evolved where survival was a daily challenge. This shaped everything about us. She showed him records of human conflicts, thousands of years of warfare, from primitive tribes fighting with stones to modern armies with advanced weapons. The scale was staggering. Humans had been fighting constantly against nature and each other for their entire history. "We learned to endure because we had to," Yuna said. "The tribes that gave up died. The civilizations that couldn't adapt disappeared. Only the stubborn survived, and they passed that stubbornness to their children." "But you achieved peace eventually," Krevthal said. "You unified your planet, joined the galactic community." "Why maintain such harsh training?" Yuna's expression grew serious. "Because we remember. Human memory is long, Krevthal. We remember the famines, the plagues, the wars. We remember what happens when we get soft, when we assume safety will last forever. So we stay hard. We stay ready." Over the next 2 days, Yuna took Krevthal on virtual tours of human historical sites. She showed him memorial walls listing millions of names, each one a person who had died in conflicts. She showed him museums preserving the equipment and stories of human soldiers throughout history. One memorial particularly affected him. It was a simple stone wall with words carved into it. "No one gets left behind." Beneath it were listed hundreds of names, human soldiers who had died rescuing their wounded comrades. "This is important to you," Krevthal observed. "This concept of not leaving people behind. It's fundamental to human military culture," Yuna explained. "We're pack animals, social creatures. Our strength comes from working together. When Ji-hoon carried you through the wilderness, he wasn't being exceptional, he was being human. We're wired to protect our group, even at personal cost." On the 3rd day of recovery, Yuna took Krevthal to meet Counselor Jun-ki, a human psychologist who specialized in cross-species understanding. Jun-ki's office was comfortable, filled with plants and soft lighting. "How are you adjusting?" Jun-ki asked after they'd settled in. "I'm confused," Krevthal admitted. "I came here believing I understood strength. Now I'm not sure I understand anything." "Tell me what confuses you." "Humans are competitive. You push yourselves and each other constantly. But you're also cooperative. You help those who struggle. These things seem contradictory." Jun-ki nodded thoughtfully. "It seems that way, but it's actually consistent. Humans are competitive within the group. We want to be the best, to prove ourselves. But we're also fiercely loyal to the group. We compete to make each other stronger, not to destroy each other. When Ji-hoon carried me, he didn't see me as competition. He saw you as part of his team, his squad. In that moment, your success was his success. Your failure would be his failure. This is how humans think. We divide the world into us and them. Once you're part of us, we'll do anything for you." This explained so much. The way humans had helped Krevthal, even when he slowed them down. The encouragement, the support, the refusal to leave anyone behind. He had become part of their pack. "There's another factor," Jun-ki continued. "Humans love challenges. We're driven to overcome obstacles. The harder something is, the more we want to do it. This is why our training is so difficult. We're not trying to break you. We're trying to show you what you're capable of when pushed beyond your limits." "My species doesn't think this way," Krevthal said. "Vorians train to reach our natural peak, then maintain it. We don't try to exceed our biological limits." "Most species don't," Jun-ki agreed. "Most species are sensible. They know their limits and respect them. Humans are different. We see limits as suggestions, not rules. It's both our greatest strength and our biggest flaw." That evening, Krevthal was cleared to leave the medical bay. His leg was healed, though Dr. Yunji warned him to ease back into training. He walked through the base, seeing everything with new eyes. Human soldiers were everywhere, always moving, always training. But now he also saw the small moments of humanity, Soldiers sharing meals, laughing together, officers mentoring younger troops, groups gathering to sing or tell stories. The same people who pushed themselves mercilessly also cared for each other deeply. He found Lieutenant Dae-hyun in the training coordinator's office. The lieutenant looked up from his work and smiled. Krevthal, good to see you mobile. How's the leg? Healed. I wanted to thank you. For what? For your patience. For not giving up on me. I've been difficult, arrogant, stubborn. Dae-hyun laughed. You've been fine. Actually, you've shown impressive adaptation. Many aliens never adjust to our training methods. They go home early or just endure until the program ends. You're actually trying to understand us. That's rare. I had no choice. You broke me in that first week. Everything I thought I knew about strength was wrong. Not wrong, Dae-hyun corrected. Incomplete. Vorian strength is real. Your species is powerful, fast, skilled. But there are different kinds of strength. Physical strength is just one. There's also mental strength, emotional strength, spiritual strength. Humans tend to focus on the non-physical kinds. Because you have to. Your bodies are weaker. Exactly. We couldn't outmuscle the predators on our world, so we outthought them. We couldn't outrun our prey, so we outlasted them. We turned our weaknesses into strengths. That's the human way. Krevthal sat down, his mind working through these concepts. I want to continue training, not just to complete the program, but to truly learn what humans can teach. How do I do that? Dae-hyun studied him for a long moment. You need to change how you think about training. Stop seeing it as something you have to survive. Start seeing it as something you choose to do. Humans don't train because we must. We train because we want to be better than we were yesterday. Better than yesterday, Krevthal repeated. It was a simple phrase, but it contained a profound philosophy. Not competition with others, but with yourself. Not reaching a peak and stopping, but constantly climbing. There's a concept in human culture, Dae-hyun said. We call it embrace the suck. It means accepting that some things will be hard, painful, and unpleasant. But instead of complaining or quitting, you face it directly. You make friends with the difficulty. Embrace the suck, Krevthal said slowly. He'd heard this phrase before from soldiers during the run. Now he understood it better. It wasn't about enjoying pain. It was about accepting it as part of growth. Go rest tonight, Dae-hyun advised. Tomorrow you return to training, but you'll return with a different mindset. You'll be choosing to push yourself, not being pushed. That makes all the difference. That night, Krevthal prepared for the next day. He reviewed his training logs, seeing his progress. In 5 weeks, his endurance had doubled. His recovery time had shortened. His mental resilience had strengthened. The numbers showed what he felt. He was becoming something more than he had been. He recorded a message to his family back on the Vorian homeworld. I am learning things I cannot easily explain, he said. The humans are not what I expected. They are not what anyone expects. They are difficult, stubborn, and demanding. But they are also loyal, supportive, and inspiring. I understand now why the galaxy both fears and respects them. They have weaponized their refusal to quit, and somehow they are teaching me to do the same. Outside his window, the base never slept. Humans trained through the night, their silhouettes moving in the darkness. Krevthal watched them and felt something new. Not fear or resentment, but eagerness. Tomorrow, he would join them again. Not as a visiting alien, but as someone trying to learn their ways. He was beginning to think like a human. And while that was terrifying, it was also exhilarating. Week 8 began differently for Krevthal. For the first time since arriving on Earth, he woke before his alarm. Not because he was anxious, but because he was eager. The morning run no longer filled him with dread. It was now a challenge he chose to face. The change didn't go unnoticed. As he joined the formation for the morning exercise, Private Jiwon jogged up beside him with a knowing grin. "Look at you, up early and ready. Someone's becoming human." Krevthal felt his mouth twist in what he'd learned was a smile. "Perhaps a little, though I still think you're all slightly insane." "Probably," Jiwon agreed cheerfully. "But it's a useful kind of insane." The morning run was 25 kilometers today, longer than the standard route. 5 weeks ago, Krevthal would have barely survived this distance. Today, while still challenging, it felt manageable. His Vorian physiology had adapted to Earth's demands. More importantly, his mind had adapted. He no longer fought the pain, he acknowledged it and moved through it. At the 15-kilometer mark, he noticed something remarkable. His breathing had steadied into a rhythm. His legs moved automatically. His mind had cleared, entering a state humans called the zone. He was experiencing his own version of second wind. Corporal Ji-hoon, running nearby, noticed the change in Krevthal's pace. "You're getting it. That's the feeling we're always chasing, when the body and mind sync up and everything becomes flow." "It's strange," Krevthal said, surprised he could speak clearly while running. "I feel like I could run forever." "You can't, but the feeling is real. Your body has finally accepted what we're doing. It's stopped fighting you." The week continued with advanced training, combat simulations, tactical exercises, and specialized skill development. Krevthal found himself performing better than he'd imagined possible. Not because his body had become superhuman, but because he'd learned to push past the mental barriers that had limited him. On Wednesday, underwater combat training tested everyone's limits. The exercise involved swimming in full gear, conducting objectives below the surface, and simulating combat in water. Most alien species struggled with this, as few had evolved near water. Krevthal descended into the training pool with his team, which included diver Sung-ho, a specialist in aquatic operations. The water was cold and murky, visibility limited. They had to retrieve objects from the bottom, navigate through obstacles, and complete timed challenges. The first dive went poorly. Krevthal's Vorian body wasn't built for swimming. He was too dense, sinking too quickly. His limbs moved inefficiently through water. Panic crept in as his air ran low. Seung-ho appeared beside him, making calm gestures. "Slow down. Control your breathing. Trust your equipment." The human's presence steadied Krevthal. He forced himself to relax, to think rather than panic. The second dive was better. Krevthal focused on technique rather than speed. He moved deliberately, conserving energy. When he completed the objective and surfaced, Seung-ho was grinning. "Much better. You stopped fighting the water and started working with it. That's the key to everything humans do." "We don't have the strength to force nature, so we learn to flow with it." "Even on land?" Krevthal asked. "Especially on land. When we run, we don't pound the ground. We let it push us forward. When we climb, we don't muscle up walls. We find the efficient path. Everything is about working with what we have, not against it." This philosophy clicked something into place for Krevthal. He'd been trying to match human performance through raw effort. But humans weren't succeeding through effort alone. They succeeded through efficiency, technique, and mental discipline. The breakthrough came during combat drills with Master Chief Bora. She was a legend at the training facility, a small woman with more combat experience than most aliens had lifetime. She moved like water, redirecting force rather than blocking it. Krevthal faced her in the training circle, armed with practice weapons. He'd sparred with her before and always lost. Today felt different. He wasn't trying to overpower her. He was trying to flow, like Seung-ho had taught. Bora attacked, her movements precise and fast. Krevthal didn't block. He moved aside, letting her momentum carry her past. She adjusted instantly, sweeping low. He jumped, Not high, but just enough. She came in again, and this time he was ready. He redirected her strike and scored a touch. Bora stepped back, eyebrows raised. Well, well, someone's been thinking. I learned something, Krevthal said. Humans don't win through strength. You win through adaptability. Took you long enough. But Bora was smiling. Again, show me what else you've learned. They sparred for 20 minutes. The longest Krevthal had ever lasted against her. He didn't win, but he held his own. When they finished, he was exhausted but exhilarated. You've earned something, Bora said. Respect. You came here arrogant. Most aliens stay arrogant or break completely. You did neither. You adapted. That's the human way. The week's final challenge was a combined arms exercise. Multiple teams working together on a complex objective involving navigation, combat, problem-solving, and endurance. Krevthal's team included Corporal Hanol, a quiet but skilled soldier, and several other aliens who'd survived the program. The objective was to reach a fortified position, extract a target, and return to base. The defending team would try to stop them. Realistic injuries would be simulated, requiring teams to adapt on the fly. The exercise would last 12 hours. 6 hours in, things went wrong. Hanul took a simulated hit, ruled as a leg injury. The corporal couldn't walk unassisted. The team's speed dropped dramatically. Enemy forces were closing in, and they were still hours from extraction. Krevthal made a decision. I'll carry him. The team looked at him in surprise. Hanul protested. I'm too heavy. You'll exhaust yourself. Then I'll exhaust myself, Krevthal said. We don't leave people behind. I learned that from Jihoon. Now help me get you positioned properly. He carried Hanul for 3 hours, through rough terrain and under simulated fire. His body screamed for rest. His muscles burned, his joints ached, but he kept moving, one step at a time, remembering every lesson the humans had taught him. When they reached the extraction point with 20 minutes to spare, the entire team collapsed in exhausted relief. Hanul gripped Krevthal's shoulder, unable to speak, but his expression saying everything. Master Chief Bora, who'd been observing the exercise, approached. That was well done, Krevthal. You didn't have to carry him. You chose to. That's the difference between following orders and having heart. I couldn't leave him, Krevthal said simply. He's my teammate. Yes, he is. And you're becoming one of us. The final weeks of training passed in a blur. Krevthal threw himself into every challenge, no longer trying to simply survive, but to excel. He helped other aliens who were struggling, passing on the lessons he'd learned. He stayed after hours to train with human soldiers, soaking up their knowledge and techniques. His body had transformed, leaner, harder, more efficient. His endurance was now impressive, even by human standards. But more importantly, his mind had transformed. He no longer saw obstacles as walls, but as challenges to overcome. He no longer quit when things got hard, but pushed through to find his second wind. One evening, Lieutenant Dae-hyun found him running extra laps around the track. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. You know training is optional after dinner, Dae-hyun said. I know, but I'm not doing this because I have to. I'm doing it because I want to. Every day I want to be better than I was yesterday. Dae-hyun nodded, satisfied. You've learned the most important lesson. True strength isn't about what you can do. It's about what you choose to do. Instructor Minho mentioned there's harder training than this, Krevthal said. Special Forces programs. He said this is just the beginning. That's true. What we've shown you is standard military training. Special Forces go much further. Longer missions, harder conditions, more complex challenges. Krevthal kept running, his pace steady. When I finish this program, I want to try. I want to see how far I can push myself. You've changed a lot since that first day. That first day, I thought humans were weak. I was wrong. You're the strongest species I've ever encountered. Not physically, but in every way that matters. You've taught me that strength isn't about what you're born with. It's about what you refuse to quit. They ran together in comfortable silence, human and alien. Different species united by shared values. The training had done what it was designed to do. It had broken down barriers and built understanding. But more than that, it had transformed Krevthal. He was no longer just a Vorian warrior visiting Earth. He was someone who had touched the human spirit and been changed by it. He had learned to embrace the suck, to push past pain, to never leave anyone behind. He had learned what it meant to have heart. And in the process, he had discovered strength he never knew existed. Not the strength of muscle and bone, but the strength of will. The uniquely human gift of refusing to accept defeat, of standing up one more time than you've been knocked down, of choosing the hard path because it leads to growth. As the sun set on another day of training, Krevthal smiled. Graduation was approaching. But for him, this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. He had found something on Earth he hadn't expected, a new definition of what it meant to be strong, and he would carry that lesson with him for the rest of his life. The morning of graduation arrived with clear skies and warm sunlight. Krevthal stood before his mirror, adjusting the ceremonial uniform he'd been given. It was a hybrid design, incorporating elements of both human military dress and Vorian traditional garments. The symbolism wasn't lost on him. He was no longer just one or the other. He was something new, shaped by both cultures. Outside his quarters, the base was alive with activity. Family members of human graduates had arrived. Alien dignitaries were present to witness their species' representatives complete the program. Media crews from across the galaxy documented the ceremony. This wasn't just a military graduation, it was a demonstration of cross-species cooperation. Krevthal joined the other graduates assembling on the parade ground. Out of 40 alien recruits who had started the program, only 24 remained. The others had withdrawn, unable or unwilling to adapt to human training methods. The survivors stood together, representing 12 different species. They wore their accomplishment proudly. Private Jiwan appeared, looking sharp in her dress uniform. She smiled when she saw Krevthal. "Ready for your big moment?" "Nervous," he admitted. "I've been asked to give a speech representing the alien graduates. I'm not certain what to say." "Speak from the heart. That's all anyone can ask." The ceremony began with military precision. Flags were presented, anthems were played, and dignitaries took their seats. Admiral Kyung-soo, the highest-ranking officer at the facility, presided over the ceremony. His uniform was decorated with medals representing decades of service across the galaxy. The human graduates received their honors first. Each name was called, each accomplishment recognized. Krevthal watched them march across the stage, these warriors who had pushed him to his limits and helped him transcend them. He felt genuine respect for each of them. Then came the alien graduates. As each name was called, their species' anthem played briefly. When Krevthal's turn came, he walked across the stage to receive his certificate from Admiral Kyung-soo. The Admiral shook his hand in the human fashion, his grip firm. "Well done, warrior," the Admiral said quietly. "You've earned this." After all graduates had been recognized, Admiral Kyung-soo spoke. His voice carried clearly across the assembled crowd. "Today we honor not just completion of a training program, but completion of a journey. These soldiers, human and alien alike, have proven themselves capable of extraordinary things. They have shown that different species can work together, learn from each other, and emerge stronger. This is the foundation of the Galactic Defense Initiative. This is our strength." He paused, surveying the graduates. "Now, I'd like to invite Krevthal of the Vorian Empire to share his perspective on this experience." Krevthal walked to the podium, his heart pounding. Thousands of eyes watched him. Cameras recorded every moment. This speech would be broadcast across the galaxy. He took a breath and began. 3 months ago, I arrived on Earth as a champion. I had won battles across 12 star systems. I believed I understood strength, understood combat, understood what it meant to be a warrior. I was wrong. He saw some humans smiling, knowing where this was going. Humans broke me in the first week. Everything I thought I knew was insufficient. The physical training was harder than anything I'd experienced. But that wasn't the real challenge. The real challenge was mental. Humans think differently than most species. They see limits as suggestions, not boundaries. They view pain as information, not as a stop signal. They have weaponized their refusal to quit. Murmurs rippled through the alien section of the audience. Krevthal continued. I learned that human training is not designed to be cruel. It's designed to reveal what you're capable of when pushed beyond comfort. Humans know something that many species have forgotten. They know that true growth only happens in the space beyond your current capabilities. He looked at the human graduates. These warriors carried me when I fell. They encouraged me when I wanted to quit. They taught me that strength isn't just about individual power. It's about refusing to leave anyone behind. It's about choosing the hard path because it leads to something better. Krevthal's voice grew stronger. I came here a champion. Humans made me a warrior. There's a difference. A champion wins against opponents. A warrior overcomes himself. Champions celebrate their victories. Warriors embrace their struggles. Champions know their limits. Warriors refuse to accept them. The alien graduates nodded in recognition. They had lived this truth. To the humans watching this across the galaxy, know this. Your training is the hardest in known space. It breaks most aliens who attempt it. But those of us who survive it are forever changed. You've given us a gift, not techniques or tactics, though those are valuable. You've given us the understanding that we are capable of far more than we believed. He paused, choosing his final words carefully. I warn my fellow aliens, if you come to train with humans, be prepared. They will push you past every limit you think you have. They will demand you become more than you are. They will refuse to let you quit. But if you embrace their methods, if you learn to think as they think, you will discover strength you never knew existed. Humans are not the strongest species. They are not the fastest or the most physically impressive, but they never stop. They never quit. They never surrender. And now, thanks to them, neither will we. The applause started slowly, then built to thunder. Humans and aliens alike rose to their feet. Krevthal stepped back from the podium, overwhelmed by the response. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Krevthal found himself surrounded by well-wishers, both human and alien. Media representatives requested interviews. His speech was already spreading across galactic networks, being analyzed and debated. Lieutenant Dae-hyun found him in the crowd. That was quite a speech. You've probably just scared away half the next class of alien recruits. Good, Krevthal said. They should be scared, but the ones who come anyway will be worth teaching. Instructor Minho approached, his stern face showing a rare smile. You did well, Krevthal. Better than I expected when I saw you that first day. I was arrogant that first day. You were. But arrogance can be fixed. Lack of heart cannot. You had heart. You just needed to find it. As the reception continued, Krevthal slipped away to a quiet corner of the base. The training ground where he'd suffered through that first brutal run. It looked the same, but he saw it differently now. This wasn't a place of torture. It was a place of transformation. Footsteps approached. Sergeant Juan, one of the human graduates, joined him. They'd formed a friendly rivalry during training, pushing each other to improve. Thinking about staying? Juan asked. I've been considering it. Admiral Kyung-soo mentioned joint human-alien units being formed, special operations teams. Harder training than what we just completed. Much harder. I've applied for one. Could use a good Vorian warrior on the team. Krevthal looked at his friend. Somewhere during the past months, that's what Juan had become. Not just a rival or instructor, but a genuine friend. You'd want me? You carried Hanul for 3 hours during that exercise. You pushed yourself past exhaustion to help a teammate. That's exactly who I want watching my back. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the mountains. Finally, Krevthal spoke. I'll do it. I'll apply for the joint unit. Welcome to the real crazy, Juan said with a grin. That evening, Krevthal sat in his quarters one final time, preparing his final report. His assignment to the joint unit would begin in 2 weeks. He recorded his thoughts for the Vorian military command. Human training methodology should be studied but not directly replicated. Our species has different physiological and psychological characteristics. However, their core philosophy has universal application. Push past comfort. Embrace difficulty. Never abandon teammates. Choose daily improvement over reaching static goals. The galaxy fears humans not because they're physically superior, but because they refuse to accept defeat. This mental characteristic is their true weapon. Any species that underestimates humans based on their physical limitations will be shocked when they encounter human determination in combat. I recommend increased cooperation with human forces. Their methods are brutal but effective. More importantly, their values align with the best of Vorian warrior tradition: honor, courage, loyalty, and the refusal to quit. These are not human traits. They are warrior traits. Humans simply express them more extremely than most species. He paused the recording, thinking about everything he'd experienced. The pain, the exhaustion, the doubt, and ultimately, the triumph. He thought about Jihoon carrying him through the wilderness, about Jiwan encouraging him during that first terrible run, about Instructor Minho's stern but fair guidance, about Admiral Kyung-Soo's respect. These humans had given him more than training. They'd given him a new understanding of himself and what he was capable of achieving. He finished the recording. Personal note: I am not the same Vorian who arrived on Earth 12 weeks ago. I am stronger, but not in the way I expected. The strength is internal, mental, spiritual. I have learned that the hardest battles are not fought against enemies, but against our own limitations. Humans understand this truth deeply. They live it every day. The galaxy calls them crazy, reckless, dangerous. They are all these things, but they are also inspiring, loyal, and indomitable. I am honored to have trained with them. I am proud to serve alongside them, and I will carry their lessons with me for the rest of my life. 2 weeks later, Krevthal stood on the landing pad, preparing to board the transport that would take him to his new assignment. The joint unit was stationed on a frontier world, dealing with security threats that required both human determination and alien capabilities. His team was already aboard. Sergeant Juan was there. So was Private Nari from the survival training. Corporal Hanul, the soldier he'd carried. Several aliens he'd graduated with, and new faces, both human and alien, who would become his new family. As the transport lifted off, Krevthal looked down at the training facility growing smaller below. Somewhere down there, new recruits were arriving, experiencing their first morning run, discovering that human training was unlike anything they'd imagined. He smiled, remembering his own first week, the shock, the pain, the doubt, and then the gradual transformation as he learned to embrace the difficulty instead of fighting it. The galaxy would continue to be shocked by human training methods. Aliens would continue to struggle and sometimes fail, but some, like Krevthal, would adapt. They would learn that humans weren't teaching physical skills. They were teaching a philosophy: never quit, never leave anyone behind. Pain is temporary. Improvement is permanent. You are capable of more than you believe. These lessons, learned through suffering and triumph, were now part of Krevthal's core identity. He was still Vorian, but he was also something more. He had been tempered in the fires of human training and emerged stronger. As the transport jumped to faster-than-light travel, carrying him toward new challenges and adventures, Krevthal made a final note in his personal log. To any who read this, human training is indeed the hardest in the galaxy. Not because humans are cruel, but because they refuse to accept that hard means impossible. They will push you beyond every limit you think you have. They will demand you become more than you are. And if you let them, if you truly embrace their methods, you will discover that you are capable of extraordinary things. The humans have a saying, "Embrace the suck." I understand it now. It means accepting that growth requires discomfort, that strength is built through struggle, that the only way to transcend your limitations is to face them directly and push through them. I came to Earth a champion. I leave as a warrior. That is the gift humans give to those brave enough to train with them. Not just skills or tactics, but transformation. The discovery that you are capable of so much more than you ever imagined. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy, but they might be the most dangerous, because they never ever quit. And now, thanks to them, neither will I. The transport hurtled through space toward new adventures, carrying a Vorian warrior who had learned the most human lesson of all. The only true limit is the one you accept.